Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to RaceFace, round number 2 of Season 7 of the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series, along with the Genisus Sim2Real Cars Series. And wow, glad to be back here for round number 2. And joining me, like always, is the world's slowest alien, Jan Price. Jan, how are you doing this evening?
Good evening, Stephen. Good evening, everybody. We are at Paul Ricard. Now, I think a lot of people out there share either a love-hate relationship with Paul Ricard. Either you love it or you hate it. Personally, I love it. It's a track of two halves. We've got the Mistral Straight, which is, like the N1 to Cape Town from Pretoria. The other part of the circuit, very tight, very technical. You need to get that flow right in order to be quick. If you get the flow wrong, I'm afraid you're not going to be quick tonight. So, and the other thing, we've got M2s versus GT3 cars. Great difference in pace. I think the passing is going to get interesting again tonight.
Oh, that's it. And we're seeing two different classes. We're used to seeing GT3, GT4. Now we're actually seeing the TCX class, which is where the BMW M2 Racing CS actually fits into. They are on the same pace. For anyone that wants to compare them to, it's like your touring cars, such as your Golf touring cars and your Audi RS3 LMS. I think that's how they go and put too many S's and numbers in front of it, but they on the same pace of it in the 24-hour series. And honestly, it's fantastic. A lot of guys have been enjoying the BMWs, as we saw in the highlights. Some very, very close racing with one another, but we can only have one winner to that. And I've got to say, the prize on the line that comes at the end for the championship for our Genisus Sim2Real, it's you get to win a full season paid to race a Toyota Yaris GR in what they had in the Extreme Festival. For anyone that is looking at it, beautiful car, road going, actually drives itself to the circuit. You put on the tires. Honestly, amazing little piece of car, and what a fantastic price to have at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I won't say no to that. And I honestly think, a lot of these guys, they are giving it their absolute best, to get the championship win and, go through in order to do something like that. I mean, it's not just this is not just a maybe. It's a definite, and it's a very big thing.
Well, one thing we also got to point out is the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series, which, as we saw, the guys having a lot of fun, lots of hard work being put in. We had a monster of a field in round number 1, all having to work around in and around each other at Nürburgring. Now moving over to Paul Ricard, a little bit more room to go, but we're going to be starting off soon with the guys heading into qualifying. And this is where it's going to be interesting. Lots of effort has been put in. Jan, you went and had a couple of laps around just trying to get your eye in. What do you think the drivers are going to have to deal with at Paul Ricard?
Steve, it's a difficult one because Paul Ricard is one of those circuits you need to make a decision. Do you want a car that's going to be stable, during Sector 1 and Sector 3, but you're going to lose out, during the long Mistral Straight? Or are you going to take a car with low downforce setup? You're going to end up with a car that's a bit loose in the tight and twisties, and you're going to gain that top speed. Personally, I went for a bit of a combination. I lost about 3 kilometers an hour on top speed on the straight, but I gained a lot of stability during the tight sections, and that's what I would go for. I was a little bit off the pace, I won't lie, but I felt very comfortable with that kind of setup, with a little bit more downforce and a little bit more stability in that rear end.
Well, we saw Henry Mayer taking the GT3 win at Nürburgring, and we saw the likes of Tariq Adam duking it out with Christopher Radloff in the BMW M2 TCX cars. So let's see what's going to happen when we head to the race. But they're on the circuit at the moment. 17 minutes and 44 seconds left to quali. Let's move over to qualify. And there we go. Welcome to the beautiful, absolutely stunning track of Paul Ricard. And a lot of people tend to say that it's more like a parking lot that had lines painted on it? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it can be, and I know the red and blue lines, bother the guys, a lot of the time. Personally, I tend to forget about it because I purely just don't notice, or my attention is not on the side of the track. It tends to be on the tarmac ahead. But from above, it can get a bit confusing, as we see there.
It's absolutely going to be something to keep an eye on for as the guys maneuver their way around. And how they are going to do this, well, to find out what's going to be the best thing to do. But Henry Mayer in that Audi, very dominating performance. Christopher Radloff in the BMW. Do you think target's been painted on them? Guys have gotten used to the pace, and we're going to see the likes of Vega Prola start getting a little bit more involved in this battle? What do you think is going to happen?
I mean, absolutely. The first race of the season was the icebreaker. As I've said it in numerous other commentating that we've done. That's where you find out, who you're racing with and who might be the main guys in the season. Having said that, we must always remember we're dealing with a sprint race here. There's no pit stops. There's nothing. It's, hard racing from green light till checkered flag, and anything can happen and anybody can still win this. We're only at the start of the season. This is only race 2. There's still a long way to go before the checkered flag drops at the end of the season.
Also, a big thank you to all our sponsors that make this race possible, and also for us to be here to go and to listen to you guys in the chat. We would love to know who you guys are supporting this evening as they make their way around the circuit, hoping to get one up on one another. And Ryan Watson is going and putting in a good lap time. So waiting for the cars to start circulating, getting out of the pits and get racing.
Yeah, actually looks like there's a bit of strategy going on here, and the one BMW looking to tuck in behind the other one, come that long straight, and maybe pick up a bit of a slipstream there.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all works out, but as we said, it's going to be build up. Now, there's still some cars waiting to come out. And I know that it might actually come in later in the smaller class, which is the Genisus cars, to go around, get their laps in, done and dusted.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, there's a huge pace difference between these two cars, the GT3s and the TCX cars, the BMWs. So it can hinder both classes during qualify if they're on the track simultaneously. I mean, obviously the BMWs needing to get out of the way of the GT3s, and the GT3s needing to get past the BMW. So I think it's actually a very good thing to maybe split the two classes and let them kind of qualify separately in the same qualifying session.
Sort their lives out just a fraction.
Yeah, I mean, absolute fun cars to drive. I mean, a lot of people out there think you need to go quickly to have fun, and that is not the case. You can have the world of fun in a slower car because of the characteristics of the car, the nature of the car, the way the car's handling. I mean, it can be just as much fun as driving the quicker cars. Yeah, absolutely, and I think it would be interesting to see when the GT3 cars get on track what the pace difference is going to be. I think we're going to see the GT3 cars in the 154, 155 mark onwards. So yet again, we're talking about a good 16, 15 seconds difference in lap times. currently, Ryan Martins is I think he's enjoying the slipstream that he's benefiting from at the moment, currently sitting in that first position.
Ladies and gentlemen, as you said, absolute cracker of the sprint series has just gotten faster and faster, better and better as time has gone on, which is always fantastic to see. And hoping to see more guys getting involved in our racing. Still hoping to make that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we mentioned it last week. This whole sprint series, the GT3 sprint series, it started out back in the day as a practice session for the Thursday nights, and it has grown to become, a true championship on its own, and now incorporating Sim2Real as well. So, it's a world of difference to what it was, a year or two ago when it started out.
Well, that's the whole thing about it. It's just to try and create a little bit more racing. And yeah, for anyone, I know there's guys going and talking about if we can level out the audio. Please let me know if this is a little bit better. Hopefully you guys can hear a bit more, whether it's my side or Yanneman's side. That would be good to hear if you guys think it's a little bit better. Still waiting for the guys to head out onto the circuit. Our GT3 is still waiting in the wings at this point to head out, while our BMWs still circulate around the circuit. But at the moment, Christopher Radloff, followed by Ryan Ottens, Tariq Adams, Hannes van Wyk, Kurt Gloschken, all going and making their way to the top, which is absolutely fantastic to see. But we got to keep an eye on what the guys are going to be doing a little bit further on in the race. Lots of strategy to go on, and where it's going to sit, well, nobody actually knows.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's a lot of guys think 45 minutes is a long race. It's not. It's a very short race. One thing goes wrong, you have a spin out, turn 1, turn 2, or you pick a little bit of damage. It results that you have to make a pit stop. That changes the whole order of the race around.
Now see, our GT3 is also making their way onto the circuit now, so they're getting up and going, which is good to see. The guys going and having a bit of fun there, and also just a bit of a concertina effect as everyone's rushing out in the last 10 minutes of the qualifying to make sure they can get going. Jason Luck trying to make his way through and just cruising by. There we go. You can just see the outright pace of the GT3 cars, and one of the cars actually going and murdering a few cones on the way.
Yeah, get out the way, I'm coming through. I think I predict about a 50-60 kilometers an hour difference in pace when they come to this point at the end of the Mistral Straight on that right hand sweep. I mean, the GT3 cars go through there, depending on setup, between 210 230 kilometers an hour. That is actually not far off the top speed of the BMW M2.
And there we go, Christopher Radloff coming back into the pits. New color scheme onto the car, and you can see RaceFace written on the back wing there, just showing where they are racing, which is always fantastic to see things like this. But let's head back onto the circuit with Mr. Mouton going and cruising around in the BMW GT3 M4, the newer car. And you can see just going and hanging on the brakes a little bit, trying to open up a bit more spacing. Now, for anyone that doesn't quite know this, the guys are just hoping to get a little bit more room before they start accelerating to put in some fantastic lap times. It's just to be nice to everyone ahead of you, if I can put it that way. Just be aware that they go and have their race, but at the same time, so you don't get held up. And this is the view of our start-finish straight, going past the pit lane. This is where it's going to be interesting. Tomorrow's race is the pit lane, when guys have to do mandatory pit stops, and it's right on the racing line.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember my days racing at Paul Ricard. Every time you come out of the last corner, you glance to see if there's a car, in that pit lane, because the last thing you want to do is a car coming out that pit lane and you meet him at over 200 kilometers an hour.
Another thing to also take a look at, the track is currently 30 degrees and ambient temperature is 25 degrees, so nice and clear, no rain expected. One of the cars actually falling off the circuit there, missing out and outbraking himself by the looks of it.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, that was, what is it, hotel corner. It's a very tricky entry because it's a right-left, but you enter it very quickly, so, and then you need to decelerate again and shift down for the left-hander. Now, that's a place on the track where you can easily lose the rear end of the car. I've lost it a couple of times in practice this afternoon, and I think, that's what happened there. The rear end might have stepped out, and then unfortunately you go straight and you don't go left.
Get a little bit too carried away and go launching out.
It's all in search of pace. I mean, this is qualifying. You try and go as quick as possible, and sometimes braking a bit too late, going a bit too quickly, and it unfortunately goes wrong. Well, a lot for me anyway.
Well, fair enough. I think it goes wrong for everyone. But just to let everyone know of Paul Ricard, for anyone that doesn't know the circuit, it's based in France. Was built in 1969. It's got had 5 different layouts. Currently is just an amazing little circuit, but it is 5.8 kilometers long, so it takes a bit of time to make your way around. So far, the fastest lap time that was set on current layout was actually done by Sebastian Vettel in Ferrari SF90 in 2019 in the Formula 1, going and launching his way all the way to the top with a record-breaking time. But for our GT3s, it was Christopher Lenz who actually put in a 1:59.3 to get the fastest lap time in the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo in 2019.
Interesting. The guys tonight are putting in slightly quicker lap times. I see McGregor is already sitting in the 1:54.5s. So I wasn't too far off with my prediction of 1:54s, 1:55s. And looking at the front of the field, I mean, we've got McGregor at a 1:54.5, Probler sitting at a 1:54.7, and then Renner 1:54.9. Well, Mayer also not far behind in 4th place at 1:55.1. So, Steve, this field is close.
It is super, super close, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it's going to work out as they go forward. The Honda, I think, does have the advantage here, being a mid-engine, being a little bit easier to maintain around Paul Ricard from my past experiences and from other people's past experiences. But Bego Krobler in that big Aston Martin, hoping to try and get a little bit more drive, but he is getting chased down by the likes of Gideon Reyna, who's in 3rd place. Gideon, always fantastic to drive with, was previously in Aston Martin last season, jumping over to the Audi R8 LMS Evo, and seems to be having a lot of fun in the car. Stunning little car, mid-engine, to try and do it. But our first place man from round number 1, Henry Mayer, sneaking himself into P2, now dropping into P3.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the front engine to the mid-engine cars here. I mean, the mid-engine cars they're going to have it over the front engine cars when it comes to the rotation part. In the Aston this afternoon, I sometimes out of some of the corners, I struggle to get the power down without the back stepping out. So you need to feed that throttle in. Where, as I said, now the mid-engine cars might have a bit better rotation, but when we get on the straights, we'll have to see what those big burly V8s of the Astons do. And everybody knows I love a V8.
Well, you can't go wrong with the front engine, let's be honest here. Talking about front engines, here's Werner Schoenemann going and having a bit of fun in the BMW, looking to cruise his way through just ahead of our Lamborghini, and he is currently chasing down Sujin Pillai's time, which was a 1:55.7. He did a 1:55.8 previously, just trying to get that little bit of time out. Here's that long, arduous back straight. As you say, it's the trip to Bloemfontein highway straight that you go up and down all the undulations, and by the time you get to the bottom, you just have to dab on the brakes, down a gear, and move a little bit of a right-hand corner. It does tighten up a little bit. They're hard on the throttle, and you see so easy to go blasting out and then right into this long right-hander where you can get caught out as it tightens up on itself.
Yeah, I mean, this right-hander it's one of those corners that never ends, and as you said, it tightens up on itself. So you decelerate down to third gear, and as you go around the corner, I actually back down to second gear without braking, just to try the rear end of the car to rotate around that corner. Because if I keep it in third, what I do is I tend to understeer wide on exit, so I actually use the gears to steer the car.
Oh, that's what you can see being done as we jump on board Tennis Bertha's car as he makes his way around in the McLaren, getting some clear data. Unfortunately, we can't see it as a camera because, well,
It would have been nice if we could.
We bust people if they do it. Oh, you're running a little bit low on fuel. And take a look.
And a Porsche, is it De Villiers?
It's Daniel De Villiers going and turning himself around, and unfortunately that is putting an end to his qualifying. Not going to get a lap in. Jean-Ray Bertha currently in 6th place, looking to try and charge his way up through the field.
Now, interesting, and this outboard shot doesn't do it quite justice, but as you exit turn 1, turn 2 is actually over a blind crest. So sometimes very difficult to get your line correct there to ensure that you actually make the apex, or as we've seen previously, run wide over those little flaggy thingies on the outside, which will invalidate your lap.
And you can get some very nasty warnings every time you go over it. So
yeah, and people like crew chiefs starting to yell at you and getting all nasty over the radio.
Start talking nasty about you, trying to figure out what they can do.
He's starting to speak foreign. then I know he's mad.
Then you've decided he's mad.
Yeah, only then.
Okay. Well, that's one thing to just at least we know what's happening.
Yeah, he tends to keep the drivers on their toes if they run crew chief. He tends to let you know what's happening in the race, but he also tends to let you know if you tend to stuff up.
If you get it horribly, horribly, horribly wrong, it chases you down.
Yeah.
But as we keep an eye on the guys starting to finish up, coming across the line, checker flags going put in. Henry Mayer taking the top spot so far. Jason McGregor in 2nd place. Bego Krobler in 3rd. Bernard Barkhuizen hoping to try and close that down. He's looking to try and better his lap time. 154.792. Looking to just get into that 154.6 range as he really utilizes the toe and pulls himself along, just hoping he can get a little bit closer to get away from these guys.
Well, that was nice, moving out of the way on the hot lap. That almost looked orchestrated.
Well, we've got to look at moments. You've got to try and figure out. You've got to be friends sometime. It depends. But Henry Mayer of Team Tryhard hoping to keep up his pace and claw his way back up to the top. It's going to be a difficult one though. I think it's not going to be an easy feat. He's got to bear in mind that everyone is going to come chasing after him. There is no getting away from it.
Yeah, and as I said before, it's a sprint race. There is no pit stops or so that you can start planning strategy to undercut or overcut a person. It's just pure racing from start to finish.
Well, in a change up right at the front, Bernard Barkhuizen actually getting 1st place. Yeah, stealing it right at the last as we jump to the grid. So let's go through the grid, shall we? Bernard Barkhuizen taking 1st place. Henry Mayer in 2nd place. Jason McGregor in 3rd. Bego Krobler taking 4th place. 5th, Dean Kabasa. Gideon Reina in 6th. Sujin Pillay in 7th. Alan Patterson up to 8th place. Jean-Ray Bertha in 9th. And Heinrich de Vet in 10th place. Daniel de Matos Petro, sorry, and do apologize for getting that horribly wrong. 11th place. Then we've got 12th is Muath Musa. Darren Miller, Bernard Reina, WT Bertha, Guillaume Bouton, Mr. Nkube, Tani Nkube in 17th, Tanis Bertha in 18th, Werner Skuman in 19th, 20th is Jonathan Chryslet, followed by Bertus Hugo, Daniel De Villiers, Jason Luck, William Wentworth, Hansi Myberg, and then we've got the like of Richard van Heerden. First of our Sim2Real cars, Christopher Radloff going and getting ahead of Ryan Artens. Tariq Adam just losing out into 3rd place. Hannes van Wyk followed by the like of Kurt Gloschken, Christian Esterhaus, Jan Kleinans, Grant Findaley, Ruan Kleinans a little bit further down than his brother, Michael LaRue, Keegan Sanderson, followed by Romero Jonker, Chantal Hansen going a little bit further, and then we got Stefan Kutzer with Grant Sebastian down in 41 position. So 41st, 41 cars on the grid. Amazing size grid to have, especially with multi-class racing. Lots of guys going and loving the bigger classes, loving racing like this. Well, let's see how it's all going to work when we get to the tighter corners.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if you are, you know, in the top 5, 6, I'm even going to say the top 10, up to the vet in 10th place, you know, it's quite daunting sitting on that grid and seeing all those cars behind you. And going into turn 1, knowing there's, depending on your grid position, 30, 40 cars behind you competing for positions and a very small space to go through.
Well, I mean, we take a look at off the back wing of Alan Patterson of the PWSR team, and you can see the cars just lining up in single file, guys trying to get some heat into those tires, to get a little bit of warmth into the brakes. And knowing that you've got this whole queue of guys in front of you and behind you, as you said, rather daunting to deal with, but you've got to figure out a point where, well, put it away from you, focus on what's ahead of you, and as you can see, the cars ahead, don't worry about your mirrors all too much at the moment. You're going to have to deal with that a little bit later when the race gets going. Sujin Pillay, though, in the Ferrari, hoping to get a bit more of a jump, was doing incredibly well in the last race, and, well, round number 1, now he's hoping to just try and get a little bit more drive. Yeah, as Paul Ricard says, he enjoys the track a little bit more due to how you can set the car up and how the Ferrari behaves underneath him. We'll have to see how that all plays out a little bit later. There we go, all our Sim2Real cars, and just in case you couldn't see who they are, Kurt Gloschken is who we keep an eye out from. He is currently in the mix with Hannes van Wyk, Ryan Ottens, Tariq Adam. You can see all the guys just really hoping to make a monster of an impact here, and a class that you can't miss with that very, very unique color scheme.
Yeah, certainly. You know, we noticed it immediately when we uploaded it. I mean, you're not going to miss these cars, and they definitely do stand out, and it's definitely gonna, you know, going to help the GT3 car spot them a bit better, I think. What do you think, Steve?
Oh, you can't miss them. It's a unique color style. I got to enjoy it. Some of the guys at the back are going and taking a little bit more of the normal approach, if I can put it that way. But we'll have to see what this Sim2Real is going to be able to do, and how the guys are going to be able to deal with the multi-class racing here at Paul Ricard. Very interesting to, as I said, bring up. They are a touring car class, which it's under TCE in the 24-hour and the SRO championship. These are the TCX cars, and it's essentially a touring car with a different body on it, and rear-wheel drive instead of front-wheel drive. And the guy's hoping to have a bit more fun at it, but there's one GT3 car right at the bottom, and it's this man over here, Grant Sebastian, who opted not to go out for qualifying or couldn't get a lap in cleanly, now has to claw his way through to the front, considering he's got all of the Sim2Real TCX cars ahead of him. So,
in all fairness, he's still driving a BMW, so slightly different one, but it's all the BMW.
Just blending in ever so slightly.
Yeah, he's just blending in there at the back. But yeah, as you said, you know, he's made life very interesting for himself, because, you know, right at the start, he's going to be at a great disadvantage, because the cars in front of him are not going to be as quick off the line as he will be. And, you know, the chances are slim to none of him passing the whole M2 field before turn 1.
It's going to be a tall order as they make their way through, heading out as they start lining themselves up. 70 kilometers an hour, no going any quicker, otherwise you're going to score a monstrous jump start as they get ready to rock and roll for the first lap here at Paul Ricard for the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series. And we got green lights and go, and take a look. Bernard Barkhuizen getting a little bit more of a jump off the line, hoping to go and hold his position as they head into turn 1. Very difficult. This is going to be incredibly tough for everyone. They just pile into the corner, hoping that a little bit of paint is rubbing there. Can't go wrong with it.
No, rubbing is racing. So far, looking at the background, it looks so far like a really clean start, and I just want to say well done to everybody, because Paul Ricard is not an easy track to do a clean start with a grid of over 40 cars on.
That's it. So we'll have to keep an eye on the guys, and just taking a look on the cars actually, and that's Sujin Pillay who came off. There's a contact.
Sorry, commentator squares.
And now this problem is you're sitting in no man's land at the moment. Sujin going and losing out a few positions off the start. He's trying to claw his way up, but facing the wrong way in the grid. Definitely not what you want to be doing. And the guys all having to take evasive action. Sujin Pillay at the moment has got a problem. He is currently getting slipstreamed by the likes of Nkube and De Villiers right behind him, and he's trying to join onto Van Heerder's slipstream just ahead of him, but unfortunately too far back to make it stick as they fight their way through. Hard onto the brakes, trying to go and move through and not go too far. You can see Van Heerder going on the defense. Sujin Pillay trying to bait him in, goes up on the inside, makes it stick, and can he make it this Ferrari bigger and wider than everyone? He's up to 14th place and is really clawing his way through.
Yeah, and you were speaking earlier how he was, liking the way the Ferrari handles, and I think he really liked how the Ferrari handled through that ever tightening on you right-hander where he made those passes.
Now it's going to be a difficult one. Richard Van Heerder though trying to close up. He lost out a bit of time there, and hard on the brakes on that Audi, the retro racing machine, really showing what it can do. But right up onto the back of Kissett in the McLaren just ahead of him, hoping to get a little bit more drive. And it looks like Nkube and Reynard going at it a little bit further back. They're going nose to tail racing into turn 1. Contact, and it looks like Reynard getting pushed from behind. He unfortunately goes and taps the like of Nkube. William Wentworth moving up and capitalizing on that mistake. Bernard Reynard going a little bit further down, hoping to get a little bit more of a drag race, as he's got his inside absolutely full of Porsche at the moment, and losing out to Jason Luck, who just comes screaming by at this point.
Yeah, and Sebastian had I think it was Sebastian, went over those rumble strips, and that really unsettled the car a bit, but well done for him there to back out of it. That was almost contact there, and he did really well as he gets into the slipstream now of Renner, and he's side by side with them. This is going to get interesting coming the right hand sweep. We see Burtis at the background there as well, trying to make a move. Was it on Buerta?
It looks like he was moving on the likes of that was Buerta that went around the outside. So Buerta just going in, getting ahead of Mr. Raceface himself as they claw their way through. But Sujin Pillay now falling down the grid again, and you can see just having a bit of a dismal time, and commentator's curse coming into play. Richard Van Heerder looking to go side by side with De Villiers at the moment. BMW first, Audi as they claw their way through and hoping to get a bit more of a jump. Then you've got the like of Chrysler, who's right behind Jonathan Chrysler in that McLaren, hanging on to the coattails at this point, waiting to get the jump on everyone.
Yeah, and this is a classic battle yet again of mid-engine versus front-engine. The BMW being a front-engine car, and I think it's going to be interesting, as I said before, how the front engine and the mid engines are going to stack up against each other on this track.
It's going to be all or nothing for them, and the guys are going to have to try and figure out what's going to be the perfect opportunity to get a little bit more drive on the competition and claw their way through. And as we know, it's not the easiest thing to do here at Paul Ricard.
Sujin Pillay is actually in the pits, so I think he picked up some damage on that Ferrari. It looked a bit second hand when we went over to him, so I think he's trying to get that repaired. And we spoke before that there's no pit stops in this race. There's no mandatory pit stop, so Pillay being in the pits, that's going to hurt him in this 45-minute race.
Well, let's go and jump down to our Genesis Sim2Real cars. Christopher Radloff getting chased down. Familiar sight, Tariq Adam all over the back of him, really trying to pressurize him into a mistake with the likes of Ryan Ottens. Also getting right onto the back, trying to push him to go a little bit harder. Remember, these three have been slugging it out in round number 1, hoping to recapture all the moments come round number 2 here at Paul Ricard. Ryan Ottens not backing out. Tariq Adam having to go on a little bit on the defensive side of things while trying to keep in the slipstream of Christopher Radloff as they go down this incredibly long straight. And it looks like Radloff just running a little bit less aero at this point, so he's able to utilize his bit more driving compared to the likes of Tariq Adam, who's focused a little bit more on corners. As we jump to Jason Luck, who is fighting off 2 Aston Martins. So the little Porsche having to go and duke it out with the 2 mighty Aston Martins who are trying to close their way around him.
Yeah, Herbie's getting chased down, and you know, at the back there was it, you know, Bertus and Buerta, you know, they going side by side through corners that they're not supposed to go side by side through. I mean, on the previous lap they went side by side through the quick right-hander after the long straight. I mean, they are having a proper battle.
It's all about ding-dong battle at this point as they fight their way around, really slugging out. Bertus just outbraking the likes of Buerta, but Buerta coming back at him on the inside, hoping to get a little bit more drive. Side by side once again, and don't talk about shaken or stirred nerves at this point as these 2 mighty Astons go and duke it out. The ASMR V8 Aston Martins, none of that V12 rubbish. It's all about the brute force and the sophistication that Aston Martin has brought to the table.
Yeah, it's actually this part of the track where I really struggled with the Aston to get the power down smoothly. That back end tends to get lively through there because you accelerate throughout that corner as they go down the Mistral straight again. This time, you know, Bertus in front with Buerta behind him, sitting in that slipstream, being patient. He doesn't have to be in a hurry because the straight is very long, and now going to the outside, and he's going to try and make the pass around the outside. Bertus sitting on the inside, and he's just defending that line,
hoping to try and force Buerta to go out a little bit wider.
Buerta drives around the outside of him.
There we go. Buerta giving no love lost there. A little bit further back, Ryan Ottens and Christopher Radloff trying to go at one another. It looks like Tariq Adam down into 3rd place. Hannes van Wyk now getting right onto the back of him. Our GT3 is now starting to also make their way around. And that does look like one of the GT3s that fell a little bit down. I think that might be the likes of Myberg. Who is, yep, that is Hansi Myberg trying to claw his way past, and a lap down on him. He's so far pitted twice, so just that damage coming into play. And we take a look at Ryan Ottens slugging out Tariq Adam, trying to go around the outside of him. Ryan Ottens stopping it. Take a look at Hannes van Wyk though, lining up on the inside, hoping to outbreak the likes of Tariq Adam, really forcing him out wide, and just going and nailing it by. And you can see Tariq Adam frantic on that steering wheel, trying everything he can to just get the car a little bit more lined up. This is all momentum based here with these cars, and you don't want to lose out too much time. Taking a look in the comments, we've got quite a few people that have come to join us. We've got Gavin Scroton going and having a bit of fun, saying how's it, along with Kerry Duplessis, likes of ECG GT Sim Racing as well, and Daniel Rowe, who's actually racing tomorrow evening. Keeping an eye out on all his competition and his mates as they do battle for the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series, along with the Genesis Sim2Real Cars Series.
Here's a question, now that you mentioned Daniel is watching. Do you think some of the guys racing tomorrow night, you know, might be watching tonight, just getting a couple of tips on what lap times that guys are doing? Can they spot, you know, a weakness or a strength?
I think so, and they're going to be keeping an eye on a few people. Currently, we've got the likes of Rayner, who set in the fastest lap time of a 155.2. We saw in qualifying the guys were putting in 154s. Everyone at the moment from first to second, third. Oh, take a look, Bernard Barkhuizen actually going down the field. He landed up with a bit of contact with one of the BMW M2 TCX cars, and now falling way down into 7th place from a fantastic start, second on the grid. first on the grid, now dropping all the way down into 7th place with that unfortunate contact, and not what you want to be involved in right now.
No, not exactly. And we spoke about it in the first race of the season, where this is a sprint race, but it's also a multi-class race, which brings a whole different style of racing also into it. You've got slower cars on track with quicker cars. The slower cars need to let the quicker cars pass without losing too much time. Same goes for the quicker cars. They must get past the slower cars without losing too much time. And the quicker cars tend to sometimes take risks to get past as quickly as possible, and then it does not work out. And that, I'm not saying that's what Barkhuizen did, but most probably that's what happened. The M2 and the GT3 car competed for the same space on the racetrack.
Same piece of real estate, and unfortunately not quite working out to them. Bernard Rayner in the tow, trying to pull himself along. He's trying to get a little bit closer to the likes of William Wentworth, hoping to go up on the inside. Will he make it stick? Jason Luck looking on this battle and hoping at some point he's going to get by just ahead of the guys. So take a look at this fierce battle. Richard van Heerde going and having a bit of fun with Sebastian up on the inside. Grant just really sending it, hoping to get 2 positions. Can he make it work? Oh, not quite, but was going to try his luck, really going around. Oh, contact between the likes of Grant Sebastian, who is now facing the wrong way and definitely changed the color of his seat when everyone came barging their way through. Not what you want to have happen, and not really that you want to be facing that way around the circuit.
No, absolutely. But that's one of the things of Paul Ricard. Luckily, a lot of the runoff areas on Paul Ricard is as big as the N1 between Johannesburg and Pretoria, so you can easily get the car turned around without coming back onto the racetrack to do that.
As we jump to Ryan Otten's 0.7 seconds behind the likes of Christopher Radloff while they go down the straight. Alan Patterson in a bit of a battle as well. He's feeling the pressure while trying to give the pressure. He's got the likes of Arena just ahead of him. Gideon going on the defensive, trying everything he can, goes to the inside line. You can see Alan Patterson has no choice to go on the outside, hoping to out-drag him as they make their way through. Bago Krobler hoping to follow suit as they line themselves up, but there's BMW M2 in the way as well, so having to just try and change that plan a little bit. And Alan Patterson just going and sweeping across the nose of Gideon. Gideon now having to go defensive as he's got the likes of Bago all around him, and
I can only imagine what went through that BMW's mind as he was sitting on that straight and 4 GT3 cars barreling down on him in that turn and passing him on either side. But well done to everybody involved there. That was a brilliant piece of racing.
That's the way to do it. That's the way she likes it. And honestly, to go and fit the cars, it's a good thing that Paul Ricard has lots of room. Oh no, Gideon getting nudged and actually going into one of our BMW M2s, and that looks to be that's Ruin Kleinans who got unfortunately knocked there, and that's allowing Keegan Saunderson, who we saw gets the cars barreling down on him. He's able to now get a little bit closer to try and move up in his class.
Yeah, unfortunately, the BMW, he had the bad luck there because the contact was made without any of his involvement, and unfortunately the car spun out into him. That truly was unlucky on his part.
It's rather unfortunate, but here we go. Ryan Otten's battling it out for first place. Christopher Radloff just ahead of him, trying to push one another into a mistake, hoping to get a little bit further up. But now onto the long straight, and this is a bit of an arduous straight for the cars, as they haven't got a lot of grunt to them, so you've got to utilize that slipstream. You've got to mimic the car ahead of you as much as possible, hoping that you would close down the gap as quick as possible. Very, very difficult situation right now.
Yeah, but we've seen now in the past couple of laps that the slipstream is not all that powerful on these BMWs on that Mistral straight. So there's not many passes being made, or well, not passes that we've seen on that fast right-hander after the straight.
We take a look at Saunderson trying to get a little bit more drive onto Kleinert side by side, and take a look at the GT3s barreling down on them also in their own race. So you've got to try and figure out how to get past before everyone barrels down on you. Bagel Krobler trying to carve his way through, while Tennis Bertha right behind him trying to pressurize him into a mistake. And oh, sorry, that's Jason McGregor trying to push him into a mistake. I do apologize about that. Jonathan Chrysalet's also making his way around, opening up a bit of a gap. You can see how the mixed class racing starting to come into effect. The guys having to work their way around. And in the likes of Jonathan at the moment, he's opened up a bit of the gap to the likes of Bernard Rayner behind him, hoping to try and pull away, but we'll have to keep an eye on that as they move their way through the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And at this part of the race, the early stages of the race, we're not that far into the race. So all those, M2s are still fairly tightly bunched together. So you're going to get a lot of them, at one time to deal with, as we see there. And this is where the multi-class racing comes into effect. The Mastos made the pass before the corner, and then, the car following behind couldn't get past the M2 before the corner.
I'll take a look at Miller fighting a battle on all fronts at the moment as he tries to keep his path, weaving his way through, and unfortunately goes out a little bit too wide, and that has allowed De Villiers to go up on the inside of him, and it looks like Daniel De Mastos, Daniel also trying to get a little bit more of a drive at Lamborghini. Unfortunately, getting put onto the wrong line has cost him. Daniel trying to get into the toe, gets a little bit closer, jumps up, hoping to go flying past both, and it looks like the Porsche actually slowing up a little bit. There's M2s once again coming into play, and it looks like Miller has got a problem. He's trying to lean on. The guys are trying to box him in, and wow, Darren Miller just getting ahead. Daniel De Villiers tried boxing him in but did not make that work, but Miller goes out wide. De Villiers comes by, close racing with these guys side by side the whole time, looking to do battle. And what a crazy, this is a race for 11th and 12th, but you can swear that they are racing for 1st and 2nd.
Well, for some people out there, for me personally, in these type of races, 11th and 12th, if I get into the top 10, that's as good as a win for me. Oh, contact again. That's between
Bernard Rayner and Chrysalet getting involved in a little bit of contact there. Chrysalet in the McLaren having a bit of a rough time, getting spun around.
Yeah, that was a bit unfortunate. But now we've got Renner and, with, what was it, Luck behind him, close battle, starting to shape up there.
As we jump to our M2s once again, you can see Christopher Radloff, Ryan Otten still so close to one another, literally trying to mimic each other around the circuit. And not talking about any team orders here, because with a big prize on the line, such as a full season race, or full season racing in a Toyota Yaris GR, I mean, there's being teammates, which is grand and all, but as you and I both know too well, when you start trying to get a little bit more pride. back. Sorry for that, little bit of technical difficulties. Gotta love PCs sometimes. Alright, but let's take a look at who is where, gentlemen. I know that we were off air for a little bit there. Henry Mayer up into first place. Alan Patterson chasing him down in second. Bagel Kubler in third. Bernard Barkhazen, followed by Jason McGregor. Guillaume Mouton, Heinrich de Vet, Nkube, Daniel de Villiers, Bernard Skouma rounding out our top 10. As you do here out, we jump to our Sim2Real class, and it's Ryan Ottens just ahead of Tariq Adam, Hannes van Dijk, Christopher Radloff down into fourth place, and with Kurt Gloshkin trying to bring up from the rear. Difficult times ahead for these drivers.
Yeah, I mean, there's only 5 minutes left in this race now, so, you know, now it's that dash to the finish line, and this Sim2Real class still very, very close racing there at the front, so anything can happen there still, see?
It's going to be a proper close battle. Everyone right to the line. Second place leader. Absolutely thrilled with his race at the moment. Momentum.
Alan has really been having a very good run of late. I mean, he was top 10 in the Thursday race last week. Now out in second place in the sprint race this week. You know, let's hope he can hope he can keep it up, you know, for the rest of the week, running into tomorrow night.
Like it out, really. And the drivers up the ladder. Ryan Ottens, so feeling the pressure from Tariq Adam, constantly hounding him from behind, hoping to just go blasting past and eventually down this monster straight.
I mean, you know, again we see the effect of that slipstream with the GT3 car coming past. Oh, looks like he braked a little bit early there, and you know that allowed the other cars to come past. You know, I think a bit quicker than he expected.
Well, Tariq Adam actually going up very wide there, losing out a lot of time, so he's having to just try and get himself pulled back and sort of really try and get himself refocused on what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as soon as you run a bit wide, you know, it does hurt the tires a bit. You know, they sometimes tend to overheat a bit, and you know, then it hurts you for the next couple of corners as well.
This is where the trick comes in for every single one of these drivers, as they try and push the boundaries a little bit more every single time they go out.
Yes, certainly.
So as they look to try and claw their way through, Otten still leading up ahead. They've got to be very happy with the performance at the moment, with the likes of Christopher Radloff, who's fallen way down on this class, and hoping to try and pull himself back to the front as much as possible. Taking a look at Bernard Skouma, though, he's in a bit of a tussle trying to make his way around by Daniel de Villiers ahead of him. Daniel really holding on to the position. Skouma hoping to get into that 9th place, constantly hounding the back of the Porsche. A little bit of a nudge though, just a friendly greeting I think, and pushing out just a tad wide. Daniel de Villiers leans on him a little bit just to try and squeeze him through the corner, so a bit of a back and forth battle here.
Yeah, and it's always, you know, nice to see these close battles with the car so close together.
His way around, trying to pull his way back up to the top. 1 minute and 56 seconds, but it has been quite an interesting race before the crash. Once again, we do highly apologise for it to drop out like that. Bernard Barkhazen in 4th place now, carving his way through the field, trying to catch up to Vega, but up ahead of him. Something to catch this.
Right,
as our drivers make their way through, Guillaume Mouton who has been on a bit of a roll at the moment. Gentlemen, your thoughts on this?
I mean, we're in the last minute of the race, so it's now pushing that last lap. Trying to make the best of these last seconds of the race. It's a lot of the time a very tense time for me, because the checkered flag is so close but yet still so far.
One little mistake can set you up, but coming across the line and looking to start his final lap. This should be his final lap.
Alright, man, the leader is on the final lap. Give it a final push.
Looking to go and get 2 checkered flags for round 1 and round 2, but you can see Alan Patterson chasing him down, not far behind, a little bit further down. Ryan Ottens and Tori Adam still looking to do battle with one another, with Genisus Sim2Real constantly hounding, pushing one another, looking to try and get a little bit further up in this battle. And also, I've got to just take my hat off to them, running 20th and 25th respectively in Division 21 on the grid. So a couple of retirements unfortunately happening from the start of the race until now. 87 cars left racing. Looks like Richard from here, there's actually a little bit, so that's maybe 36.
Yeah, it's unfortunate to have retirements, but even we had a retirement tonight. The BC's decided to retire, so I think we're not the only ones maybe dealing with technical difficulties.
Around the circuit, hoping and clawing their way around the circuit, trying to get one up on one another in this remaining time here at RaceFace for the GT3 Sprint Series. Daniel DePasto, who is trying to make his way through, you can see getting hounded by the likes of Darren Miller, who is trying to get a little bit closer. Jason Luck is also trying to move his way through the field. But I've got to point out that old Damastos Petro having a fantastic race and a very good showing for him, up in the 11th position right now.
Yeah, 11th position, very close to that top 10, and I think he's going to push to get into that top 10, getting boxed in there by the Honda, and that's one of the things that can happen down the straight, if you're battling 2 cars at once.
And it's all about this final charge, but Henry Mayer, as you see, takes first place for our GT3 Sprint Series. Alan Patterson taking second place. Bernard Barkhazen going to be finishing up in 4th place. Ryan Ottens taking first of our Genisus Sim2Real, with Tariq Adam in 2nd place. Hannes van Wyk taking 3rd, looking a little bit battered and worn as they're coming across the line. Guillaume Mouton also now charging his way through. Heinrich de Wet now coming across the line, taking that 7th place. Nkube taking 8th place. 9th place going to De Villiers as he launches his way across. Skuman just keeping ahead of Demetrio Petro, who crosses right behind him in the little Honda. Darren Miller in the Lamborghini had a great run. Got to take my hats off to him, but unfortunately not able to get as high as he wanted. But 12th place is no slouch. Jason Luck finishing up in 13th place. Gideon Rayner in 14th. 15th going to WT Bertha. William Wentworth, Bertus Hugo, Tianis Bertha, who's trying to make his way through. As you can see, still doing everything he can to just try and get round our BMW M2 class. And Yalaman, anything from your side with closing? And been an exciting race. Unfortunately, once again, I do apologize to everyone in the stream for the stream going down unexpectedly and losing a little bit of time.
Yeah, Steve, from what we saw, excellent close racing again. The fact that we've got GT3s and, the TCXs, the M2s on track, it makes for very interesting racing, and I'm very much looking forward to next week to see what, hopefully not new thrills and spills there would be, but, new, exciting, close racing, maybe new guys doing a bit of battling, and, can't wait.
It's going to be an interesting one. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us here at the RaceFace GT3 Sprint Series. And we'll see you tomorrow evening for our Metal State Grid Championship Series, brought to you in partnership with RaceFace. Thank you, one and all. It's Jan Price and Stephen Koenig signing out.